Hi, and welcome to the Randy Karraker Show on STL Sports Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Matthew Rocchio, 364 more days to another birthday.
Woohoo!
Randy Karraker, great to have you with us, and a lot to get to today on the program because Cardinals, sure, this has not been a great year, but the Cardinals entered the history books yesterday, and I think we should all be proud that we were able to witness the history that the Cardinals gave us yesterday.
No pride in the history. The stat was real, despite the fact that I'm sure many Cardinals fans, much like Brendan Schaefer last night on the STL Sports Central postgame, were not ready to accept it, but it's true. The Rockies broke an MLB record streak last night as they had gone 220 games since they had last shut out another Major League Baseball team. And that was the longest mark in Major League Baseball history, but
in the modern era.
But the Cardinals broke that, and they were shut out last night in a 6-0 loss. Again, a 220 historic streak for the Rockies broken by the complete lack of offense from the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, so no shutouts in 220 consecutive games for the Rocks. They also had not had a home shutout since last year. And going back in the overall, that 220 game overall streak without having a shutout, only the Washington Senators, who went 383 games without a shutout from 1893 to 1896, and your St. Louis Browns from 1897 to 1899. They went 298 games without a shutout, had longer streaks than the Rockies. The Cardinals do get shut out, and they didn't even have a chance. They didn't provide an opportunity for Andre Pallante. By the way, the Cardinals in the first 3 innings of the 5 losses on the road trip, they go 1-5 on the trip to Arizona and Colorado.
That's bad.
First 3 innings of the games, their starting pitchers give up 24 runs. They gave up runs in every game except McGreevy's, and Cardinals were outscored 24-1 in the first 3 innings of the losses on that road trip. The 5 losses that they had. So their pitchers are pitching from behind. That's not good. And obviously Eric Petty was one of those guys. So does he count anymore? But the Cardinals, they don't have anything going for them right now. There's nothing going for the Cardinals right now. The trade deadline is a week from today. That's what they have going for them.
This could be bad. I think it's time to put the Cardinals in timeout. They need to think about their actions. Getting shut out of Coors Field. Coors Field is inexcusable.
What happened? Did they put the ball in like a freezer? They have the humidor there. I get it.
Seth Teal. This team is a joke. Bloom needs to take over now. I don't know if that would really change anything, but I understand the idea that you'd want to have Bloom controlling this deadline, considering it's his team that he's building for next year. I can understand that thought process. That's completely legitimate.
Yeah, but at the same time, it is what it is. They've given the reins to John Mozeliak through this trade deadline, and so you have to deal with that. And my guess is that when Chaim Bloom takes over, whatever that might be, August, September, after the season is over, the Cardinals' new Pobo is going to have to hire a general manager, and he's going to have to reestablish these relationships with the other Pobos and other general managers in baseball too. I can guarantee you this. Chaim has not done any of the groundwork, any of the legwork getting ready for the trade deadline next week. So if the Cardinals would say, yeah, Mo, you're done, you're fired, we're going to hire Chaim. Chaim, you have a week to get to know everybody and lay the groundwork for trades. It just doesn't work that way in baseball.
Bubs is asking how dramatic we want to be in the chat today. I feel like we're going to be pretty dramatic in the chat today. While I think a lot of people might be sitting in the spot where it's like, okay, they can't ignore what just happened. I do want to say this because Joe Kruger put it out there. I look for a Padres sweep of the Cardinals this weekend. I'm just want to throw this out there right now. If the Cardinals were to sweep the Padres, depending on what happens in other games, but if let's say if everything stays at like 500 with the other wild card standings, the Cardinals would be in the 3rd wild card spot with a half-game lead over the Padres.
How about that?
So I know a lot of people are sitting here saying, okay, they can't possibly pivot away from selling after losing in Coors Field and getting shut out by the Rockies. But if they do it by some ridiculous chance of the math, sweep the Padres, and then are sitting there with the Marlins series and the actual final days of the trade deadline, and they're in the wild card spot, I kind of hope it happens because I enjoy chaos and I enjoy the reactions that chaos gives us.
Well, but let's go back to what you brought up yesterday, and I think you and I both believe. Is this team, even if they would sweep the Padres, a team that is going to succeed in October?
No.
Now, one of the things that might change is you keep guys around so that if you go on that run and you're in the lead of the wild card on trade deadline day, you might want to keep the group together because, as has been mentioned, and Ollie Marmol agrees with my thought process here, September is a different sport. September in baseball is a different sport. And if you can get all these people that you're giving runway to, now this includes McGreevy, but it's Winn, it's Donovan, it's Victor Scott II, it's Jordan Walker, it's Nolan Gorman if he gets healthy. None of these guys have been through a real playoff race in September. So if you can start September and be in the hunt, it's going to be a big benefit to your young players. So from that perspective, maybe you do want to keep people around so that you don't lose as much and you give those guys an opportunity. That being said, I would be stunned if the Cardinals would sweep the Padres based upon the results of the last week. And I would be surprised if they would sweep the Marlins too. I think there's a much better chance a week from tomorrow of Helsley, Maton, Nats not being on the team than being on the team.
Yeah, I listen, Namu in the loose is ouch. Monkeys just flew up my butt, Rock. Yeah, I'm not saying the chances are high after the way they've been playing baseball, but we've seen bad teams take down good teams all the time in baseball, and honestly, it wouldn't shock me, mainly because if anything in the baseball universe can do to confound and befuddle and kind of fog up this Cardinals season, it seems like it's determined to do, because if Jordan Walker never gets hurt at the end of May and he's able to hit all through June and July, again, it wouldn't have affected the pitching conversations we're having, but I feel like our conversations about the future of 2026 and 2027 would be very different conversations right now.
If he would have stayed hot.
Yes. If he would, yes. Yeah. Obviously. But also, I think at the same time, had he not stayed hot and we would have had another month and a half of MLB level consistency, either good or bad, that also could have answered some questions for us. It could have given the Cardinals an answer.
Right.
So like it's these little things about the season where almost everything that could have happened this year to give the Cardinals less clear, like a less clear look at what they've had, it's happening. And now even so, they're kind of having their hands forced in a positive way in what everyone's talking about all over the chat, which is JJ Wetherholt, another 2 home runs last night. Yeah. And so there's another kind of thing that's forcing their hand in a way I don't think they were prepared for.
Their hand is not being forced unless they just changed the CBA.
Okay, fair enough.
Because they aren't starting that clock to come up for an also ran in August and September. They aren't starting his service time clock so that he can come up and show them something. He will not be here until next year. I would be shocked. Not that I'm not saying that it won't happen. Yeah, but I would be shocked if the Cardinals would give up a year of service time so that they can see JJ Wetherholt for 2 months in a losing season.
You can still call him up without. Can't you call him up for this year without burning
130 at bats?
So you can't call him up now.
No,
but you can call him up in September.
For September.
You can call him up in September.
Yeah, give him some at bats.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are. You're right about that one. People who keep seeing these home runs and thinking we need to see JJ in the next week or two. Yeah, you're probably right there. Andy says you can still bring him up in late August, and I think to Randy's point, he probably expects September for JJ Wetherholt. It would make a lot of sense. But that does mean we're going to have another month and a half of people clamoring for him as he continues to. I
would rather see the Cardinals move him to the outfield in Memphis for the last 2 years of this, last 2 weeks of the last 2 months of the season. 2 years, 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever. I'd rather see him learn how to play the outfield down there than see him taking time from Winn or Donovan here. And we know what Winn and Donovan are. I'm not averse to somebody else getting a look occasionally there, not every day. You don't want, because you're going to have those guys as your middle infield for next year, but let him play center field and see what happens. By the way, Keith Law at The Athletic turned out his new top 60 prospects this morning, and Wetherholt is number 3 on the list. Number 23 is Liam
I'll
Doyle,
take
and
that.
those are the only Cardinals in Keith Law's top 60.
Hey, those are your top 2. Those are your top 10 picks. Those are the guys who have to develop and succeed for you to have some success. And I'll take those 2 guys being on the list.
Eric Cleveland, if you're a player in that locker room, don't you think you'd have some pride in your performance? They looked like they would rather have been anywhere else than playing ball yesterday. Well, you got to remember, and we see this all. We saw this when a couple of years ago. Remember when the Brewers faded after they traded Josh Hader? You DFA a guy like a stalwart in your locker room, like
Randy,
Eric
stop
Fetty.
it. No.
And yeah, people are going to say, "Man,
I have a different.
What's the next shoe that's going to drop here?"
I have a different take on that, and that is, I'm going to paraphrase something a quote we've all heard. I'm going to change it. Imagine your dream job. Someone's doing your job and is kind of bored by it. Like imagine your dream job.
Uh-huh.
There's someone in the world who has that job and woke up today going, I kind of wouldn't want to do that today.
Yeah, sure.
And that's all my point is, yes, they are Major League Baseball players. Yes, they think about this thing. I'm not saying they're knowingly lollygagging through a game.
Lollygaggers.
I'm saying that all of us, as we walk in for day 107 of 162 of our job, we are all liable sometimes on day 107 to not give the same effort we gave on day 4 of that stretch.
You're telling me that they're just completely good with that rock star Eric Fetty not being in the room.
I don't think that's the reason that affected. I'm going to chalk this one up to, human nature of you're never at 100% your entire life. And that's my thing. And I think with athletes, we're watching them and yeah, it didn't look like a team that was like jacked to win that game. But to your point, I think it could be about Fetty, but less about losing him and more about the lack of confidence they have in their roster over the last 2 weeks, considering Fetty, Palante, and Michaelis are all getting hit pretty consistently.
Yeah. Why do you guys keep overeating Winn and Donovan?
Overrating. Where's that comment?
I don't know that. I mean, Brendan Donovan was an all-star this year, Major League Baseball, and the people, the powers that be, including his fellow players, picked him as the number 2 second baseman. Masyn Winn, let me get the latest. He's the best defensive second baseman in baseball. I think you're underrating him, Bill. I think Bill has a tendency to be kind of a curmudgeon, and I think there's a level of negativity there that maybe you have that we don't. And but I think maybe you are underrating those young players. Donovan's in his prime, rather than us overrating them.
Yeah, people keep telling us we have that we're being overly positive and we're putting on rose-colored glasses, and I'm sorry, guys. Like, I really don't think we're being very positive about the Cardinals right now. I think saying that some of these players might not be trash at the sport they play isn't having rose-colored glasses. It's having a little bit of perspective is one thing. Philip Mazapel, who joins us on the Facebook stream. Here in St. Louis, when it comes to the Cardinals, we're always afraid to use the word rebuild. Well, we better start getting used to saying that word. I'm okay.
They've been through their rebuild. They're coming out of it right now.
And I'm okay with there being a line. I know we make a lot of jokes about it with the Blues, but there is a difference between like a rebuild and a retool. And I know it became a cliche thing, but there is a difference between rebuilding and retooling. One of them is about breaking things down and building them back up. Another one is doing things on the fly as you transition and bridge from windows of non-competitiveness to competitiveness or vice versa. And I think it's fair to say that based on how the Cardinals operate, they are trying to do retools. You can criticize them based on how much you think they are sticking to their plan. And that's always been one of our big points. But expecting a full-on tear-down rebuild from the Cardinals was always going to be ridiculous prior to the changes in how the draft works. But now with the changes in how the draft works, it's a ludicrous expectation.
Yeah. There are several notable defensive metrics that are utilized now that haven't always used. It used to be we looked at errors and we looked at fielding percentage, but those don't really apply anymore because you have so much more technology with video and with the ability to see what play a player should make and what plays players do make. The one that I think is most accepted now is outs above average. That's the number of outs a player records above the average at his position. Nick Allen, this is for all players in baseball, not just shortstops, but the top 3 are shortstops. Nick Allen of Atlanta leads Major League Baseball with 18 outs above average. And then Masyn Winn and Bobby Witt Jr. are tied for second in terms of outs above average. So that is something that the Cardinals have going for them, is the defense at shortstop. And so the numbers tell me that Masyn Winn, and his offense is, he's about league average, right? Offensively. Masyn maybe a little bit above, but Masyn Winn, we're not overrating Masyn Winn. He's a superb defensive shortstop who has a decent offensive game that's getting better. And then you have Brendan Donovan, who we already mentioned, is terrific defensively. He's the Cardinals' best all-around player, and he is there's ancillary things that go beyond the playing field, and Brendan Donovan is the leader of this team.
Chris Widener, 8 home runs in a career, 775 OPS does not a star make. I like Donnie the player. However, I would wager Wetherholt will have a better season his rookie season, which I hope will be next season. A couple things here. If you use the phrase career 775 OPS does not a star make, if you use that exact syntax again, Chris, I will block you from the chat, because you sent that exact phrase like 19 times over the last 3 days about Brendan Donovan. And if I have to read that sentence in that formulaic, like you're freaking Yoda, I will burn your chat to the ground. Wow. It's annoying the living daylights out of me. And also it's a false premise.
Yeah, and
117 career OPS plus means he is 17% better than an average hitter. You might not agree that he's a star, but we can all agree that players like that are the guys you need on a roster to round things out. When we were talking about the Cardinals' need for a big bat yesterday, at no point did we call Brendan Donovan a big bat. We were talking about the 2 through 5 build, and we're leaving Brendan Donovan completely out of the conversation. He was not in any of the conversation about us building the most the ideal Cardinals lineup for 2027, which means no one here is telling you that Brendan Donovan is a star. What they're telling you is that it's a pointless idea to trade him because he's better for you on this roster than the value you're going to get for him. And he is an incredibly valuable player that any team would want. It's just that they're not going to pay you for a 28-year-old giving you this value, because there are 23-year-olds and 25-year-olds who it makes more sense for them to trade for. That's why you don't trade Brendan Donovan. It has nothing to do with his star power or what he brings to this team. You want Brendan Donovan to be your 1, 6, 7, or 8 hitter for a winning team. That's the goal.
Yeah, and while it is a home run game, you aren't normally going to have a lineup where everybody is hitting home runs, and so you might believe that just because a player hits X amount of home runs or doesn't hit X amount of home runs that makes him a star or not. And there's more to the sport than just hitting the ball out of the ballpark. But we do appreciate you tuning in. Samuel Howe seems angry. Think he watched the Cards game? Yeah, I think so. And probably saw them not get many hits and lose, get shut out to a team that could wind up being the worst team in history. You lose 2 out of 3, not great.
It has nothing to do with anger. It is more of, I enjoy a good, colorful back and forth. And if you're just going to use the same sentence over and over again after we read it, like we read the text yesterday where we used that phrase, and we just need to ban that phrase because we just don't need it. That's all I'm saying. Also, Bill Downton, he's chatting a lot about JJ Wetherholt. We're seeing this to other people. Wetherholt can play short and give us a better bat. There is no doubt that what he's showing you in AAA makes you really excited for him. But for you to definitively say trade or get rid of Donnie and Winn because you know that JJ Wetherholt's going to be a better major leaguer than them is it's a foolish statement, my guy, because we've seen guys who have raked in AAA, maybe not to this level, who don't pan out. We've seen guys who hit the majors and they're solid players, but they're never the superstars we expect them to be. So yes, I expect JJ Wetherholt to be a very good player, but just to sit there and say, I know for a fact that a guy who can hit 300 in Major League Baseball in Brendan Donovan he's 100% going to be a better hitter than him when he faces Major League pitching day in and day out. He's got the chops, but this is why it's easy to be a fan and it's hard to make decisions, because I guarantee you, no one in baseball is saying, yeah, I know for a fact that the rookie can hit better than the guy hitting 300 against Major League pitching for the last year. Just come on, I'm not saying don't be excited about JJ, but let's not make ridiculous comments about how we know for a fact the AAA guy is already better than the major leaguers you have.
Matthew, I think the reason for that is because we're seeing what Matt Koperniak is doing at the major league level this year. And we're seeing that, hey, we knew this guy was going to be able to hit 320 because of what he did for the 6 weeks of spring training.
And see, I'm much more okay with people reacting to JJ Wetherholt, considering his age, than when they were reacting
those 2
to
weeks at AAA.
Yes,
yeah.
At least he's 20 years old instead of 26. I'll give him a little bit of a pass there, but I see your point and I agree with you. You might not be wrong, but we're talking about making the smart moves and saying, I know JJ Wetherholt is going to be a better, more useful player than Masyn Winn at shortstop is a huge leap. And that's separate from the Donovan conversation, because we're talking about the Winn conversation. People are saying, well, I know he's supposed to be a second baseman, a third baseman, but I'm okay with playing him at shortstop because I want that bat. That's a fine decision to make, but you are accepting that you're trading and getting a downgraded defense.
I think that we're discussing a moot point for 2025 anyway, because JJ Wetherholt is not coming up in 2025. I want to get to this one from Garland Newell. How can Masyn Winn be an above average hitter? No power, doesn't steal bases, and his average is at best average. Well, there's a statistic called OPS plus, and Matthew refers to it a lot, and it takes into every consideration all the other players in baseball, your ballpark factor. There are numerous factors that go into OPS plus. An average hitter is at 100. So if you're at 120, you're 20% above average. If your OPS plus is 80, you're 20% below. He's right at 100. He is a league average hitter this year. And he seems to be a guy, unless you think that a player that is 23 years old has maxed out, and that's all he can become, and has, 2 years of experience, essentially. He came up at the end of 2023, played 2024, now 2025. So he's got 2 years. If you believe that a 23-year-old with 2 years of experience has maxed out, then yeah, you can say that he will never be that guy. I have a tendency, and this is just me, to think that beyond the age of 23, from the ages of 23 to 27, players sometimes get better. And so that's what I'm counting on and banking on, is that at the age of 23, there's still a little bit of upside for Masyn Winn. But I completely understand if you think that a baseball player that's 23, he is a baked product and he's finished, that he is as good or as he's possibly going to be. I appreciate that, and I want to have you be another general manager.
I'd hate to break up the Cardinals talk here, but it will be the majority of the show, so I'm okay with jumping in this here. The news, apparently official, Columbia, Missouri. The University of Missouri Board of Curators has approved a contract extension for Missouri football head coach Eli Drinkwitz, as well as an enhanced salary pool for his assistant coaches, strength and conditioning staff, and football support personnel, Mizzou Director of Athletics Laird Veach announced today.
Well, he just get extended 2 years ago, like during the 2023 season?
Yeah.
Wow.
If you're in Columbia, Missouri, it is Eli Drinkwitz's. It's his city. December 31st, 2023 was the last time Mizzou had announced an extension through the 2028 season. So, but in 2023, he was already extended through 2028.
The Board of Curators, you said, did that?
That is the flash, apparently official from Board of Curators. Well, also, they extend the contract to 2030. And they approved the enhanced salary pool for assistant coaches. Like, he was already extended through 2028. So I gotta think this is till 2030.
Well, Matthew, I just got to take a look at who's on this Board of Curators.
Oh, okay.
Don't you have to know?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Is the guy who ran for mayor who's like his best friend on the Board of Curators?
I don't think so, but there's a guy named Robert Blitz.
Oh, okay. We've called him Bob when we talk about him a lot.
Yeah.
Kept the Rams here.
And he also got some Rams money when we won the lawsuit. So Bob is on that Board of Curators. And
so this is by my count, this is the third time they've extended his contract, because I have a report from ESPN on November 5th, 2022 that extended him through 2027. Mm-hmm. Then you have December 31st, 2023 that extends him through 2028. And now you have July 24th, 2025, that extends him through. Previously, it was just a 1-year extension, but I wonder if this is through 2030. I wonder if this is a 2-year extension. But I think maybe the bigger part about this might be the expanded pool for salaries for his assistants, strength and conditioning, and other football positions, which gives him now he can break off $100,000 to a consultant.
Heading into this extension, by the way, Eli tied for the 11th highest paid coach at $9 million, tied with Lane Kiffin, Josh Heupel, Mark Stoops. So my guess would be that this probably takes him at least to 10 and gets him with Belichick, maybe in that Lincoln Riley range. So good for him, good for Eli, and good for his assistant coaches as well, because one thing you can do, and he's got a really good staff.
Okay.
One thing that you can do to sustain a program is continue to pay your
apparently it's all about just tacking a year on, because they added one to 2027, they added one to 2028, and this one adds it to 2029. Okay. So they just keep adding a year on to drink every year or two. So he just keeps on building that contract. So yeah, now he's signed through 2029 after previously being locked in through 2028. Thank you very much.
So in December, I was over at name drop here. I was at Bob Blitz's company Christmas party in Clayton, and I walked in, and who's the first person I see is Eli Drinkwitz. Eli Drinkwitz. Yeah. So.
I appreciate him being in our video, thanking everyone for 1 million views, and obviously we'll have a lot of Mizzou football to talk about throughout this entire season. Talked a little bit about the NIL numbers the other day, but it'll be a big season for Mizzou, and we'll be covering it right here on STL Sports Central.
Absolutely. Cole Bassett's left foot. If Masyn Winn played in New York, they'd already have a Broadway musical called Winter is Coming.
Yeah, but they don't know how to properly rate shortstops in New York, so that's shouldn't surprise you. It really should you. I mean, you can have historically one of the worst defensive ranges at the history of the position, and be one of the greatest players to ever play that position. Apparently.
Yep.
I don't know how it works, but.
Yep. Sun Devil 1980. I assume you're an Arizona State alum. Brendan Donovan is average defensively by both OAA and DRS. Randy, you decided OAA for Winn. Donnie is -3 overall and a -1 for the infield. Is that this year, or is that for his career? We'll take a look. Obviously, he hasn't played second base exclusively for his career, but let me just double check here. We got to make sure that we're right. But yeah, I like his defense. Not that I haven't said, if you bring Wetherholt up next year to play second base, if Donovan winds up playing third, or if Donovan winds up playing left field, you're in pretty good shape.
His defensive run saved is 1 at second base this season, so it's above average.
Okay.
In his career, it was 1 last year. This is just at second base. It was -4 in 2023 at second base, and in 2022 it was 0. He had 7 runs. He had 7 runs saved at third base, though, his rookie year, and that's been his best mark of his entire career.
The people that are ahead of him this year at second base in terms of defensive runs saved, Nico Horner blows away the field. He's at 14 already. Horner and then Bryce Terang of Milwaukee, and then Simeon of Texas, Albies, and Luis Urias of the Athletics. Those are the top 5 ahead of Brendan Donovan in terms of defensive runs saved. And in terms of outs above average, he is down the list. So, oh no, he's not. He is at a -1 along with Cronenworth. And he's ranked 8th in outs above average. And again, Horner leads the way by a pretty substantial margin there. But yeah, it's, the thing is, relative to the other guys that you've had here, number one, if you watch them play, you know that this middle infield plays very well together. But the other part of it with Donovan is he is a guy that I think now playing second base exclusively is going to get better and better. I think every player, when they know their role and they do it day after day after day and get reps at it, I think they're going to be better. And he won a gold, as Matthew has mentioned. He hasn't won a gold glove at second base. He's won a gold glove as a utility player, and that meant he was playing second, third, left.
Also, you're comparing him to Winn, who is like top 5 in the league at every metric at a harder position. So like I think Winn's numbers being more impressive than Donnie's isn't really a shot against Donnie's numbers. It's just that like every single number for Masyn Winn is unbelievable. Like he's right in line in almost every metric, like top 5, top 10 across every position in the entire league. You just look at like range factor across all positions, fielding run value across all positions. Masyn Winn's 6th in the league alongside guys like Pete Crow Armstrong and Bobby Witt Jr.
Yeah. Randy Hansen, what's the date where they can bring up JJ without him losing his rookie status for 2026? That will, or at least should be, when he will get the call up. Give him a little taste this year. I really do think that the Cardinals want to see these players that they have on hand in September, and they still want to play Donovan. They still want to play Winn. JJ Wetherholt has not played the outfield yet, and I'm pretty sure that what the Cardinals want to do this year is continue to watch those guys play rather than bring up, and by the way, to be 130 at-bats that he would be allowed. I don't think they want to take away 130 at-bats from one of the people that they've been looking at for 4 months.
Yeah, I think that would go directly against my idea of sticking with the plan you have. And that would very much bother me. Nathan Simpson, New York has the best shortstop of all time. I don't know what you think you're talking about, bro. I'm not talking about, I don't know what I think I'm talking about. I know that if you look at career ratings for defensive metrics at shortstop and you look at all-time career ratings, there's a big name who's at the bottom of the list.
Is he talking about
I'm
Francisco
talking about
Lindor?
No, I'm talking about Derek Jeter.
Oh.
I'm talking about how I love Derek Jeter. I respect Derek Jeter. Derek Jeter, statistically, one of the worst shortstops in baseball history.
No, he's not.
Defensively.
Yeah, no, he's not.
By the metrics, he is.
Yeah, that's what. Give me the metric that's
his defensive run save is one of the worst career.
Well, they've only had defensive run save for like what?
Baseball ref.
I don't think they even had it at the beginning of his career.
It's just I kind of just like poking the Derek Jeter thing.
Yeah.
Well, Derek Jeter's incredible, but who was the better shortstop, him or Alex Rodriguez?
Well, the best defensive shortstop ever was Ozzie Smith, right?
Well, that's fair.
But to say it's people think that Derek Jeter was a bad player.
No,
Derek Jeter was a really he's a Hall of Famer, legit Hall of Famer.
I'm not saying Derek Jeter was a bad player. It's saying a player might not be thought of in a saying a player is overrated also means you think the player is bad. That's not what I'm saying. I think being in New York.
Oh, you just said the worst. You referred to him as the worst shortstop ever.
Defensive shortstop. Okay. By statistics, he does have the throw from foul territory.
Yeah,
almost foul territory.
If Jeter played for the Rays, no one would know who he is. You know who Wander Franco is.
Oh no! What the hell? I was trying to try. I knew something was coming, and I was going to try to head it off at the pass, and I didn't get there in time. No. I'm just like we're talking about.
Okay, so have we told the Rick Riley story? We got to tell the Rick Riley story, right?
Can I say this?
Because this makes Derek Jeter the greatest of all time.
The first season that defensive run saves were calculated in Derek Jeter's career in 2003, he was -13. In 2005, he was a -27 at shortstop.
Wow.
It was bad.
So that really kept them from getting to the World Series and winning World Series.
Those years, I believe it did not. 2004, I think he might have done pretty well in that season when he had -13. 2005, not a bad season. He finished 10th in MVP voting, and he won a Gold Glove despite a -27 defensive run saved.
Yeah, how about that? So anyway, one time Rick Riley, who was with Sports Illustrated at the time, asked Jeter just randomly, "Hey, can I read your fan mail?" Because the way it works, superstars have their own locker, and then they have another locker next to it, and the superstars have another locker that's just full of, back in the days, snail mail, fan mail. So Jeter says, "Yeah, I don't care. Go through it." So Riley's going through it, and there's a bunch of people that want cards that are, they get a self-addressed stamped envelope to go back, and so he's going through those, and there's people that like have Make-A-Wish requests and stuff like that. And then Rick Riley comes upon one. He opens it up, and it is an 8x10 of a beautiful woman. And he smells a scent wafting from the picture. It smells like perfume. And there is an attached note, a Post-it note that says, "Derek, give me a call," with a phone number. And it is an 8x10 glossy of Miss Universe.
Not bad.
And Rick Riley goes to Jeter and says, "Derek, look what you just got. Miss Universe wants you to call her. Here's the number right here." And Jeter said, no, man, I'm not. And Rick Riley said, come on, it's Miss Universe. And Jeter's working and he's like working on his bat and stuff. And he says, no, I'm not, I'm good. Thanks. And Rick Riley says, are you crazy? And Jeter says, dude, I've been down that Miss Universe road before and I'm not going down it again. The GOAT.
Nathan Simpson said Jeter doesn't have to even be a good defender to retain title of greatest shortstop of all time. I'll put in my vote for Cal Ripken Jr. and sleep soundly tonight. That's all I'll say to that.
We had the best shortstop ever here. So with all due respect to anybody else, I don't know that I put Cal Ripken in my top 5.
The offense doesn't move you?
No.
Really?
I'm a defensive shortstop. I'm a win up the middle guy.
Cal Ripken also won a ton of gold, not a ton of gold gloves. Sorry, not because just Derrick Jeter was winning all the gold gloves for shortstop. But I mean,
but he was there.
The numbers,
for 14 years before Jeter got there, and then he moved to third.
Yeah, the numbers for Ripken as a defender and a hitter is unbelievable.
So
God bless America.
I would put
same OPS plus as Derrick Jeter. How about that? 112.
Well, number one, I would put obviously Ozzie above.
I knew you would.
I would put Jeter above him. I would put A-Rod above him. I mean, hell, just look at the current, not the current, but his contemporaries. You don't put Nomar above him. You don't put Tejada above him. But then
I'm just
go back
by Nomar. I just got annoyed by Nomar.
Why? I
just couldn't watch him.
Oh, yeah. It is just kind of frustrating. But
I actually loved it when I was a kid.
Then if you go back and probably, you don't put Concepcion ahead of him. You probably see, and it's a different position. You probably put Phil Rizzuto because of his defense. He's right there. But let's take it from the start of Cal Ripken's career on. Okay. So 1982 on. Let's count that as his era. Is he top 5 in his era? I've already got Ozzie, Jeter, A-Rod ahead of him. I don't think I put Vizquel. So maybe I'll put him in my top 5.
I mean, Randy, 400. He's got 400 home runs.
But how many of those were at third base?
So he played overwhelming. He didn't start playing a lot of third base until his age 35 season in 96.
Okay.
He played overwhelmingly almost every inning at shortstop up until 1995.
Literally every inning.
Literally almost, yeah. And so it's literally only the last 5 years that he starts and he plays shortstop through 96 and 97, splits times. He doesn't move full time to third base until his final 3 seasons in 98. His final 4 seasons. In 98, 99, 2000, 2001. Those are his only seasons where he was a full-time third baseman. Everything else is full-time shortstop or majority time shortstop.
Okay.
And I mean, it just 2 MVPs. But how many silver sluggers for the position? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 silver sluggers for the position in the American League. I think he should be. Definitely think he should be in the top 5 conversation.
Might even put him in my top 4.
Yeah, I mean, it's 413 home runs,
Alan
almost 2,000 RBI, and then if you look at the defensive metrics compared to other players, and you can criticize defensive metrics, but I'm just saying compare one player's defensive metrics to another player's defensive metrics, and Ripken was the league leader. Not just the position leader at shortstop, he was the league leader in what the range factors and things they had prior to 1993.
I think I probably you have to put Yount in the conversation when he played shortstop, and you have to put Barry Larkin in the conversation too.
Oh, I always forget about Barry Larkin. That's a really good point.
So, and then Pete Kozma.
and I love these two because I had no idea we were going to have a random Yankees fan in the chat today, but good Lord, Barry Larkin. He was great. Well, he's one of those things where you look at his Hall of Fame or you look at his baseball reference page, and because nothing is bolded out or golded out, which means he's not like a career all-time leader or he wasn't even a season leader, you just want to go, oh, he wasn't there. But then if you actually break down every number, it's just like he's like just 4 points like behind the leader every year in batting average or slugging percentage, or he's got like 2 less home runs than the guy at his position. So it just doesn't jump out when you lead it, but when you dive into it, my God, Barry Larkin was a monster. But he's a name maybe one of the most underrated players from that era.
Alex Rodriguez, this is Cole Bassett's left foot. Alex Rodriguez at shortstop was like a cheat code. Power, speed, defense, and just enough drama to keep SportsCenter busy. Yes, he was.
That's the Alex Rodriguez thing. And You know what? I always like asking for perspective because I was younger and I was just taking in the media's reaction. But when you in the moment are seeing the numbers coming out for the Rodriguez to the Rangers and then the trade to the Yankees, and everyone's saying this amount of money is going to ruin sports. Where were you? Was that an alarmist take to you in the moment, or did it seem like it could be something, and was going to change baseball? It did.
I did, and I've told you the story about how I was at those winter meetings when Boris got Tom Hicks, the Rangers owner, no general manager, so he got Hicks into a room in Dallas, and the biggest contract in sports at that time was Garnett, $126 million. They come out with a $252 million deal for A-Rod. No, I wasn't alarmed by that because we saw things happening here because that's 02, and the Cardinals already had kind of like the idea of plans, the concept of plans, as it were, for Ballpark Village. And that's what Boris sold Hicks on when he made that deal. He said, hey, you won't believe how much real estate you'll be able to build that will generate revenue for you around your stadium because of the presence of Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez paid for himself. And as it turns out, Boris was right. I mean, look at what the players are making now, and they're only getting 43% of the revenue that owners are churning out or that they're receiving. So no, that didn't alarm me. And even now, the $765 million, the people that are paying it can afford it. So I'm not concerned about it at all.
A great example to why you should follow local media instead of the national media. Because again, as a kid who's only watching the national media, my entire recollection of the Alex A-Rod thing is the sky is falling. Sports are going to be ruined because this one guy is going to make so much money. And perspective is an important thing.
Yeah, and you know what? I am stunned, but I know the money is there. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Packers and the NFL money in a moment. But the fact of the matter is, when like the money, you can't be hardened to it. And I try to wrap my head around SGA getting $72.5 million a year.
It does seem insane. Like, for some reason, just over 50 million seems like.
And think about this. Here's the 15th highest paid quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, making $45 million. I remember going to Kurt Warner the day he signed the 7-year, $45 million contract with the Rams, thinking, holy cow, wow, this is massive. And now the 15th highest paid player in the quarterback in the league is making $45 million a year. And that was a $45 million deal over 7 years. So times change, and there is so much money there. And I'm glad the players are making it, because if the players weren't making it, then the owners would be keeping it.
We got started into this conversation because we were talking about shortstops, and Tommy Cross brings us back into the Cardinals conversation. Why do the Cardinals draft players that are blocked in the big leagues? I understand that you draft the best player on the board, but it's not good to play these players out of position. And I'm glad we're having this conversation because, like a lot of conversations, they keep overlapping with the things I think about with the soccer team. And I'm having a thing right now with people being obsessed with positions, and it's throwing me off because I don't know why people these days have this like hard locked in idea that a player can only play one position, and if you move the positions, you're hurting the player and you're stunting the player, and they shouldn't ever have to do that. You got to play a guy at one position. It seems like such a myopic, simplistic view of how sports work, and without having any ingenuity, or in fact, without having any expectation that guys making millions of dollars can't work on stuff. Like, I understand you can't have huge, wild decisions, and like you can't tell a guy he's going to be a catcher. He's never been a catcher. That's legitimate to me. But people being like, I don't know. I don't want to screw with Brendan Donovan. You can't move Brendan Donovan out of second base. He has to be a second baseman. He can't be a left fielder. I think that's just a weird way to look at sports.
Yeah. Carson Kelly, who's having a great year behind the plate for the Chicago Cubs, he was drafted as a third baseman by the Cardinals. Albert Pujols was drafted as a shortstop. Now, he was never going to play shortstop on a regular basis, but he was drafted as a shortstop. Look at the really good Astros teams. Bagwell, when he was traded to Boston in 1990, or by Boston to Houston, he was a third baseman. As a matter of fact, Scott Cooper came here because Bagwell, I think, was there and was pushing, and they had Boggs too. Anyway, Bagwell was a third baseman who got moved to first base, and Craig Biggio was a catcher who got moved to center field in the outfield. One of the great players of all time, should be in the Hall of Fame, Dale Murphy, was a catcher who got moved to center field. It happens all the time. Shortstops get moved all the time. As we've mentioned, when you draft a shortstop, he's the best athlete on his team. Almost universally, he's the best athlete on his team. And so you can move a shortstop pretty much anywhere. And what you're hoping is that guy can hit for a little pop. And that's the thing with Wetherholt. The Cardinals, even when they add Wetherholt to this mix, he's not going to be a 30 home run guy.
And Adam G says, LOL, do you think moving Walker to the outfield was good for his development? Yeah, the point there is that you can't,
if it was done right.
You can't bring up players who have to all develop as a hitter and then also tell them, as you're developing as a hitter against Major League pitching, I need you to also learn a new position. In the moment, you can't tell a guy who's never played right field, who's always been a third baseman, hey, go play right field today in the majors. I'm talking about, though, in the grand scheme of development, it's like my point is that people who say that Brendan Donovan has to play second base are ignoring the fact that he has hundreds of Major League Baseball innings playing a very good left field. Jordan Walker's a different case here. The thing with JJ Wetherholt that everyone's saying is that, yes, he was a shortstop, but the plan has been, and everyone, as Randy just said, people are talking about, well, move him to second base, move him to shortstop, or move him to third base. To look at JJ Wetherholt and say they drafted a guy who plays a position, they're stopping it. I don't care what position you get drafted at. Do you have the athleticism and skill to play another position? Then let's go try you out there. Ivan Herrera, the cat was just talking about this on Lou Information Station, and you've talked about this before. Ivan Herrera says that when you ask people about him in Puerto Rico, they will tell you he's an outfielder because that's what they remember him as, because that's what he was coming up. And so does Ivan Herrera have the athleticism to cover the ground of a major league outfield? If the answer is yes, then there's no reason not to let him try and play that spot because it gives you versatility. He's a major league baseball player. He's an athlete. He's getting paid $1 million. Let him go figure out left field.
And let's review the bidding on Jordan Walker, because I think there might be a little bit of a misunderstanding there. So Jordan Walker is drafted as a third baseman. Cardinals bring him through the organization as a third baseman. And I remember in early 22, Gary Larocque, who is the Cardinals minor league director at the time, was asked about Walker moving. And the Cardinals had Nolan Arenado, who had an opt-out after that year, and they had Nolan Gorman. So the Cardinals should have known, because I knew, and many of you knew, and you knew, and I think Nolan Arenado knew, and Nolan Gorman knew, that if Arenado opted out, the Gorman was going to be the next third baseman. So the Cardinals keep Gorman at third because Larocque said, well, we don't want him to have to think about his offense. We want him to be comfortable defensively and not have to bring any problems changing positions to the plate. And he hit really well at third base.
Our chat's being taken over by some more breaking news.
Oh, what do we got?
Apparently, the news official right now.
Weather hold up?
No, a death, unfortunately.
Uh-oh.
It appears that Hulk Hogan suffered cardiac arrest at his home yesterday and has passed away.
That's a shame.
Yeah, Hulk Hogan dead at 71. The news hitting right now.
He had a great run.
Didn't he, though? My God.
Man. So anyway, just to tell you about the Walker situation. So the Cardinals make the trade in 22 for Jordan Montgomery from the Yankees. Trade Harrison Bader to the Yankees. And they also, on that same day, they acquired Happ, I believe. I think it was J.A. Happ on the same day. And so I said to John Mozeliak, I said I would assume that with Bader gone, that you need an outfielder, and that you'll probably move Walker to the outfield. And he said, yep. And then he calls me back. And this was in, August 2nd of 22. And he calls me back. And I said, are you going to move Walker to either left or right field? And he said, yeah, he'll be playing there tonight. And I start walking away. He turns around and he says, hey, he might play some center field too. The thing is, Cardinals didn't have a minor league outfield instructor at the time. So basically what they did was they told Jordan Walker, just go out and play right field and get reps. And don't worry about anybody really. Now, not that they didn't have a minor league manager and coaches and stuff, but they didn't have somebody who works specifically with the outfielders to teach him how to play the outfield. So they play him in August and September of that year. And then the next year, with something like 55 games in his life under his belt as an outfielder, they let him start in right field on opening day here. without any, and that included the 6 weeks of spring training, but he wasn't given the opportunity to learn the position. And that's one of the deficiencies the Cardinals had in their system, is there wasn't enough teaching going on. So don't blame Jordan Walker for his defensive ineptitude. Blame the Cardinals for him not learning how to play the outfield. And by the way, because of the third base situation that I told you about, they could have easily moved him, because they knew, and I knew, and you knew, that he was never going to play third base here. He was going to be an outfielder. They just didn't give him the opportunity, and they didn't give him the proper teaching to become an outfielder. And
that's why as we're talking about JJ Wetherholt, the point is that they were moving him from shortstop at AA to second base at AAA, because they have the shortstop spot, hopefully locked up for the next decade.
And if they want to move him to the outfield now, Bernard Gilkey is a minor league outfield instructor. So, and he travels around. So if JJ wants, or if the Cardinals want JJ to play the outfield at AAA, they can send Bernard out there for 3-4 days and just give him some pointers and some tips and try to get JJ acclimated to playing that position.
We got a chat here today, Skywalker 1982, saying breaking that the Cardinals won't limit trade talks to expiring contracts. And his reference there is referring to just now posted on X by our good friend Derrick Goold. Do yourselves a favor if you're a Cardinal fan. If you're not already following him, I don't know why I have to tell you, but go to X, Twitter, whatever you found, and follow D Goold, because he just posted 2 minutes ago his story, and the headline is, the Cardinals aren't limiting their trade talks to just pending free agents, and we'll listen to a few others. So this is reporting directly from Derrick Goold in the Post-Dispatch and on STLToday, and that does seem to be a little bit of a change.
Well, I think they were always willing to trade Arenado.
Yeah, that's fair.
And that's not an expiring contract. And I think they've always been of the, at least from people that I've talked to in the organization, if there was a trade where they could trade one of their lefty hitters for the same right-handed hitter, they would do that. But there hasn't been that trade available to the Cardinals at this point. But I think that if that would pop up, if the right-handed version of Alec Burleson would pop up and they could trade Burley for a right-handed bat, I think they would do that without hesitation. So, hey, we want you to know about our friends at DraftKings Pick 6. It's so fun to play DraftKings Pick 6, and it's also a way that you can change the way you watch games. Nothing beats relaxing on a hot summer day like this one and watching baseball. There are 4 games on MLB Network today. So here's what you do. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, get in on the action and download and use that promo code right there that you see, STL Sports, and you'll have the opportunity to win. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less of the stats on 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big money, big cash prizes. Pick 6 is available right here in Missouri. Don't miss out on the fun. It's so great to use, so much fun to play, and there's some great games today. I know that there's not a ton of action in Major League Baseball, but you can still have a great time. As a matter of fact, take a look at Cal Raleigh. Is Cal Raleigh going to hit another home run, number 40 on the year?
It's not a bad wager.
Not at all. Against the Angels, against Kikuchi, I would say that he is. So I will give him that one. And then you can take a look at the Cardinal game if you want. There are a lot of plays there. You got Wilson Contreras. I don't know if I'm going to go Wilson to get a home run, though. But I am, I kind of like Wilson Contreras against his former teammate, a guy he caught with the Cubs in Yu Darvish. So I will go Wilson Contreras to go above 1.5 hits plus runs plus RBIs. I've got something there, and you can have something too. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and don't settle for smaller payouts. Switch to Pick 6. And right now, new customers get $25 in bonus picks with their first deposit of $5. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use that promo code STL Sports. That's promo code STL Sports for new customers to get $25 in bonus picks with your first deposit of $5. Better payouts, bigger wins, only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
I want, if you have Hulk Hogan stories, send them into us. So back in the day, and this was in the 80s, I think we did pro wrestling from the arena on KMOX. It was live.
Jeez.
Costas and Deerdorf and Ann Keefe calling the action for the Hulkster against Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Bobby the Brain Heenan was there, and it was just unbelievable. You had quite a card, too. You had Andre the Giant and Junkyard Dog against Big John Studd and Ken Patera. You had Tony Atlas against the Playboy Buddy Rose. You had Bret Hart against Cowboy Bob Orton. That's Randy Orton's dad, by the way. You had Rick McGraw and Jim Neidhart. And this thing was on KMOX. They did pro wrestling play-by-play. Bob Costas did pro wrestling play-by-play. It was absolutely hilarious and so much fun. And the Hulkster could not have been a better sport about helping those guys out in the undercard and then going out and putting on a show. It was amazing.
He an absolute performer. You know, it's funny because my era that I watched wrestling, I'm one of the few kind of generations that I completely miss Hulk because I watched wrestling after his big 80s run, but then I'm not a wrestling fan anymore when he comes back for this kind of nostalgia run that he did over the last 10 or 20 years. So like I had no connection to Hulk Hogan in my wrestling fandom, and I did have a solid bit of wrestling fandom there in the late 90s for about 6 or 7 years. And so I've learned about him entirely in stories and in historical context, and I've gotten to work with some very large. Oh no,
we're gonna go.
Okay, very.
Let's do it. Okay. Hello.
I don't know if
you there. Hello. Am I on a recorded line? These people.
So are they
call and then they don't answer.
Unbelievable. Anyhow, still on? Nope, just not gonna answer.
They hung up.
Jesus, you're useless. Way to get a useful job and contribute to society.
No doubt.
Sorry. Anyhow, but I've worked with some radio hosts in my time who were diehard 80s wrestling fans, and they talk about Hulk exactly like he represented himself as a superhero.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's really special about that run of wrestling back then is they felt 100% like superheroes. And, you know, Stone Cold and The Rock, my generation still had that, but not to the level that Andre and Hulk Hogan, obviously not even the big names, guys like Roddy Piper, and these guys who defined wrestling and defined entertainment to an entire generation, the one old, you know, just above me and then older. Absolutely incredible.
My buddy Big Frank last year was in, he goes down to Florida for a month every year and ran into the Hulkster at his store down there. And
your friend is huge.
That's why his name is Big Frank.
Hulk Hogan's like 6'5", isn't he?
Big Frank is 6'9", 6 something.
Good Lord.
So that's why we call him Big Frank, right?
I was not expecting Randy to show me a photo of a guy who was going to be the larger of the two with Hulk Hogan and dwarf Hulk Hogan. Good Lord.
Here's the other, there's so many great Hulk Hogan stories, but he passed up the George Foreman grill. It was offered to Hogan first, and he passed it up. I think he took a smoothie maker instead. I
think so, yeah.
And then they offered the George Foreman grill to Foreman, and he took it and wound up getting that. So pretty amazing. And and over the course of the next 48 hours, not everything was hunky-dory with Hulk Hogan by a long shot, but we'll hear some great wrestling stories about the Hulkster over the course of the next 48 hours. Reb 1. Hey, Randy, been calling you for days. Your payments for your water mattress are overdue. Please reach out. Thanks. I like that. Funny. So, one of these days we're going to get my Medicaid stuff on the air here. They hang up on me lately.
Cole Bass's left foot. Hogan versus Sheik was less of a match, more of a Cold War allegory with tights and mustaches.
That's true.
It's very true.
Oh,
insane. Absolutely just an insane character.
Yeah. So his wrestling resume is great, and he was larger than life in terms of the wrestling world, and that memory is one that we'll all savor. All right, we wanted to talk a little bit about the NFL because the Packers, as a publicly owned squad, they have to reveal their revenues, and they basically open their books. And if they open their books on national TV, then we know what every team in the NFL makes. And yesterday, Mark Murphy, the president of the Packers, announced in his last board meeting as Packers president that the Packers generated $432.6 million in national revenue last year. And that's from television rights primarily, but also NFL properties and some of that stuff. He said that that's about 60% of the Packers' overall revenue. That makes their overall revenue about $721 million. The Packers had made $402.3 million the year before. Revenue jumped to $432.6 million. So that's a league revenue increase year over year of about $969 million. Let's just round up at the register. $1 billion more in 2024 than they had made in 2023.
That's an unconscionable amount of money. I can't believe it keeps going up. As the Packers commented, it just shows you it's just a measure of how incredible the league's popularity really is. And because again, too, if you look at it too, so it jumped from 138 million to 432 million. So let's call it 300 million across the last 18 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so 300 million across the last 18 years. If you just kind of did the math really quickly, that means an average jump of about 16 million per year across that entire the length of that. This past year, it jumped 30 million. So that probably even tell you that we were expecting the NFL to stagnate at some point, but apparently, according to these numbers, it's actually it's extrapolating. It's magnifying. The NFL is an earthquake, and the magnitude is getting larger, and it will increase by a magnitude. The fact that again, this means that the growth was slower back in 2010 and 2013 than it is over the last 5 years. That's unbelievable.
And here's the thing: we can say, okay, Dak Prescott $60 million. If you're one of these people, you're overpaid, or Josh Allen at $55 million, or Joe Burrow at $55 million, or Trevor Lawrence at $55 million, or Jordan Love at $55 million. We can say, these players are overpaid. Well, there's 1,700 players that are splitting 50% of the revenue. Then there's 32 owners that are splitting the other 50% of the revenue. Now, they have expenses, they have buildings, they have practice facilities. Some of them have built stadiums. They probably have staffs of a couple of hundred people. But even if the owners individually, each one, are getting 25% of those revenues. So we're splitting the revenues 50-50. Players are getting $6.5 billion. Owners are getting $6.5 billion. And then let's say the owners give $3.25 billion to pay other things. So let's divide $3.25 billion by 32. That's is that 100 million a person?
Say that one more time.
Just figure round off. 3.2 billion by 32.
Yeah, 3.2 billion by 32 should be 100.
So that's that's what each NFL owner conservatively would be putting into his pocket. That's just from national revenue. That doesn't even include local revenue.
Carry the zeros, move the decimal points, 100.
Yeah.
Bing, bang, boom.
So that's 100 billion for those people. Unbelievable. And then, as Mark Murphy said, that accounts for about 60% of our revenue. We also make, because their revenues were 721 billion, if that's the case. So that's all gravy for the owners. All of that. That's incredible.
400 million in revenue sharing that's like what one of the chatters is like, just how about that ownership by the Packers group? Just so incredible. I mean, just incredible ownership to make all this money. Yeah. Must be really hard when you're just getting $430 million checks just right off to you. Take it and walk away. That's all the money you get simply because the Cowboys and everyone else exists, and you're not in Dallas.
Chris Widener, losing 2 NFL franchises stings. It does, especially because when you're making that much in TV revenue, and this was the case when Mr. Bidwell left, teams did not have to sell a ticket to make money. The TV money is so extraordinary that you don't have to sell
60% of their revews
are
from TV money.
Yep. So when Stan Kroenke moved his team, it was 100% greed.
Yeah.
It was all about him increasing the value of his franchise, but the Rams certainly could have succeeded here. Here's the thing. If the Steelers can succeed in Pittsburgh, if the Bengals can succeed in Cincinnati, then the Rams could have succeeded here in St. Louis. So, but you know what? The greed is working. Keith Adams, Randy, when you're playing a parlay, you are not enjoying the game as much as you say you're literally sweating the ticket. Oh, well, it adds emotion. That's what I'm saying. It changes the way that you watch the game.
There's some people who go to Vegas, and there's some people who don't. And listen, I love my mother, but she always looks at me when I tell her about when I have blackjack stories, or Doug Vaughn's a good friend in the market. He's like, I can't get into gambling because as soon as I put down $20 and I lose, I'm just mad that I lost $20. I don't think about the positive side of things. And that's Keith, you're not thinking about the positive side of things.
No, yeah, let's go positive. Adam White, I'm a D-bag. No, you aren't. You're watching this show. You're not a D-bag. But I'm not watching the NFL ever again. I can get my fix from college. That group of owners is the worst in sports. Yeah, they're scoundrels. They're bad people. It is a good product, but I will tell you this, Keith. Adam, I like watching the SEC more than I like watching the NFL. I think the SEC for my tastes is a more palatable product. I like the officiating better. Obviously, the athleticism isn't as great, and I'm not like you. I do consume the NFL, although I try to do it as much as I can without paying their freight. But I'm like you. I could get by watching the SEC every week without the NFL. I could. I don't, but I could.
Adam, yeah, I don't think you're D-bag. In fact, I think you're a good person. But me, because I, on the other hand, I am what have been called directly by friends of mine a hypocrite, a carpetbagger,
hypocrite,
a moron, a simp, and a cuck, because I will readily admit right now that college football does not give me my football fix.
Oh,
it never has, and it never will.
Yeah.
As much as Mizzou, like save for a Mizzou national championship run, there is something different.
It's going to be really fun this year.
Yes, it is. There's just something about the NFL that will always be just it's my favorite sport being played at the highest level, and I can't move past that. And it will always be that to me, and I will always hate myself for being an NFL fan. And I was proud that I wasn't an NFL fan in 2016, 2017, 2018, but since the beginning of the 2019 season, I have every season, little by little, become more and more of an NFL fan again. And I think you're a better person than I am. I think I'm a weak person who, when I have something I know that makes me happy, I will involve myself in it, even if it's not healthy, even if it's not the best decision. I am a weakling. And when it comes to the NFL and football, I am absolutely still a weakling. And when I get into the NFL, it feels just like it did when I was younger. And that'll never be beaten. And college football doesn't do it.
That's fair.
I hate myself, but God.
College football now is pro football, though. It's better than it's ever been.
It's better than it's ever been, and it's getting close. But there's because for me, it's the team building aspect. The fact that you're always churning over every 4 years of college football gives it this end point that I always feel is there. Whereas the NFL, I feel like if you have a team in the NFL, that's it for life. Like every year is what we're looking towards next year. Who we drafted? Who's the free agency? Do we have a quarterback of the future? Is this left tackle going to be here for 10, 12 years? All of those things, it gets me. And now I'm able to kind of lean back, and because I was such a diehard NFL fan, I have multiple teams where I kind of built nascent fandoms, and I can kind of lean on them now. And luckily, the Buccaneers are pretty well run, so that's fun.
Good. And Matthew and I feel the same way about this. I actually mentioned this the other day on the TV show on Matrix Midwest, and I was roundly criticized, but you and I are the same. I miss training camp. Training camp opening is always fun, and it's always fun to see the kind of guy that's kind of off the radar that has a chance to make the team as an undrafted free agent or a low pick. And I miss that. I miss seeing those guys sweating out there a couple of times a day, which they don't do anymore.
It's just like Bubs is saying, don't hate yourself, Rock. Hate those greedy beliefs that took away our team to make more money. I do. I wish, because I have friends who, whenever I watch an NFL game or I talk about it, they're like, you realize that you're a hypocrite. And what you saying that you loved St. Louis sports you're a liar because you clearly care more about the NFL and you clearly love football more than you love love St. Louis sports. You are a hypocrite. I have friends who every time I talk about the NFL will text me and call me a hypocrite for talking about the NFL. We'll have chatters who do it as well. When we were over at the radio station, if we ever did an NFL segment, we would get immediately dozens of texts saying, how dare you talk about the NFL? You're a bunch of cucks for talking about that league after they left St. Louis. People will always feel that strongly, and that's why I don't actually agree with them. I don't actually hate myself for this, but I do kind of wish I didn't love football the way I still do. I kind of wish I didn't, but it was football's the reason I'm here right now. It was always my number one, and I can't get away from it. In college sports, they never hit for me the way that the professional does.
And you could say what you want about Matthew or me in terms of watching television, but the fact of the matter is that the Kansas City Chiefs in St. Louis, their television ratings absolutely dwarf the Cardinals, the Blues, St. Louis City SC, although we don't get those numbers, whatever you want. So here's this is from our buddy Dan Caesar last year. Actually, this was a piece that he had January 16th of this year. The St. Louis market tuned into the Chiefs game to see the Chiefs and the Broncos. Remember, that was a game where Mahomes wasn't playing, and they didn't care, and it was a rout by Denver. But that game outdrew the best rated Cardinal game last season and exceeded a game in the Blues Stanley Cup final run. A meaningless blowout by Denver of Kansas City at the end of last year had a higher rating in St. Louis than the Blues Game 3 Stanley Cup final game.
Speaking of ratings, Lex Luthor asked, what kind of text did you guys get when you talked NBA? Probably not very positive either. We got a lot of texts from people who were extremely ignorant of the fact that NBA ratings do better than hockey ratings in St. Louis as soon as you eliminate the Blues from the factor. So if you talk about all the hockey teams that aren't in St. Louis and how much St. Louis people watch them, and you talk about all the NBA teams that aren't in St. Louis and how much people St. Louis watch them, people in St. Louis watch a lot more of the NBA than the other teams in the NHL.
Yep, no doubt about it. Yeah, that once the Blues season is over, we're a great Blues town, fabulous Blues town. But I don't think we're an overall hockey town, and I think the ratings and the interest that we get here on the shows reflects that. Okay, we've got one other Cardinal question for you coming up, but I want you to know about the Fenton Bar and Grill, just 2 minutes away from the soccer park in Fenton. Best trash wings in St. Louis, best trash wings in America, best trash wings in the world are at the Fenton Bar and Grill on Rudder Road in Fenton. You can see the menu at FentonBarandGrill.com. There you see the wings, and they are not only looking delicious, but I can tell you from firsthand experience, they are delicious. They are tantalizing, and they have delicious, cool, fresh salads. If you want to get their Cobb salad with perfectly seasoned turkey and their delicious ham and their fresh and cool lettuce, it's a great salad to have. Their homemade ranch dressing there is absolutely wonderful. They have great happy hours between 2 and 5 p.m., 6 different items for $6. Plus, today, it's Gumbo Day at Fenton Bar and Grill. Every Thursday is Gumbo Day, and it's the best gumbo in St. Louis. You got to stop by the Fenton Bar and Grill and try it. You're going to meet some great people there. Say hi to Chuck, the maitre d', the 2024 maitre d' of the year in St. Louis. And my friend Megan is going to be there. Jamie will be there. Candy, the whole gang, the whole group of servers will treat you so well, and you're going to talk sports. It is, after all, the Dive with a vibe, and it is a great place to go and talk sports and have a great time. It's the Fenton Bar and Grill, again, Rudder Road in Fenton. The website, FentonBarandGrill.com. And when you go, tell them Randy sent you. Okay, I need to know if people are how people feel about this, because a lot of media folks, myself included, say that Mike Shilt's Padres are in town. I don't think overall that gets a great response over at the ballpark from the people that work for the ballpark. Not necessarily.
They don't like it that we call them Mike Shilt's Padres.
Right. Now, if I'm going to find a moment when the Cardinals started to lose their fan base and not sell tickets anymore, if I could pick out just one, it's going to be the Cardinals firing Mike Shildt and the way they did it. I think a lot of people were upset by that. So, and I think they've kind of attached themselves to Mike Shildt, and therefore, because he's managing the Padres. And I just want to know if it bothers you or if you like it, because we don't say Dave Roberts' Dodgers are coming into town. We aren't going to say.
We say it whenever there's a storyline, because I feel like we would say Dusty Baker's Cubs or Dusty Baker's Reds.
Well, when there was a rivalry, yeah. But Dusty Baker and the Reds. But I don't think that any other opposing coach or manager, maybe when Chief comes in with the Maple Leafs, maybe we'll get that. But I think that it's just a natural thing, because I still consider Mike Shildt one of our guys. And so I have no problem saying it, but I wonder if from a fan perspective, from a media perspective, and I consider myself a fan with access, a representative of the fans. Do fans, are you guys bothered by that? Does it make a difference to you at all? Because I can tell you that there's multiple people over at the Cardinals that wonder, why do you say Mike Shildt's Padres are coming to town?
I actually really love that. I love that it bothers other people. That's hilarious. Ellipsis 150. This is literally a nothing burger. Doesn't bother me at all. I'm with you on this one, Ellipsis. What the hell?
Yeah.
That's what you're worrying about down there right now?
I don't have to say it. Did people say Joe Torre's Yankees back in the 90s? It was before my time. Yeah, because he was winning so much. He won the world. After he leaves here, wins the World Series in 96, then not in 97, but then 98, 99, 2000. So, yeah, we did a lot, because Joe Torre is such a likable guy and was so good to the people here in St. Louis, and people knew that he got screwed, not unlike Mike Shildt.
Yeah, I think the media is definitely doing it because of the connection. Like the people who down at Busch, who apparently don't like this, they are 100% right that we are doing it, whether intentionally or unintentionally, to twist the knife, turn the screw a little bit. They're correct there. I just had no idea that they would actually think about that. It blows my mind that thought process actually crossed someone's brain, that they noticed it.
Yeah. This could be Ben. I think calling the Padres Shildt's Padres is a dig at the Cardinals front office, because he was loved here. And I think it's, and somebody said that Mike Shildt is a gentleman, and Cole Bassett's left foot. So he is a gentleman, and we like him. And I think that we want to actually, it's a good thing for the Cardinals. We want to tell people he's in town so that they can go see his team. I don't think it's a bad thing for the Cardinals at all, but if you had philosophical differences with him and fired him, or if you're the manager that replaced him, I can see where you might, if you're listening and paying attention, you might say, hey, what about us?
That's to Nick Applebaum. I was just about to use this phrase. He beat me to it, though. Cardinals front office is so thin-skinned. That would be the definition of thin-skinned, in my opinion.
So, but Mike Shildt's Padres are in town, and Mike Shildt's Padres are good. And you know what? He is so good with people, and I think he's still doing his ball talk. But he advocates Manny Machado as a leader on that team, and he's got Tatis playing well, not to the level that he did before the suspension, but they gave all the time that Yu Darvish needed last year. He had a personal issue. They gave him all the time he needed. Now he's back and pitching tonight. Dylan Cease is apparently copacetic, even though he's going to be a free agent and might get traded. Mike Shildt just is able to keep things on a really cool, even level. And I think he's the quintessential manager of people. Before anything else, before going and picking out a relief pitcher or sending up a pinch hitter, he manages people really, really well. And that includes, by the way, the media.
And I just can't wait until 15 years from now, when both him and John Mozeliak are retired and away from baseball, and then we can find out what actually happened.
Yeah. And it's
because I ain't believing a single thing that's been publicly stated about that firing.
Well,
I'll say that right now.
Our buddy Marty Kilcoyne has said that Mozeliak has said if Shildt wants to say why he had philosophical differences, he can.
It's interesting to me that's a very key phrase. And yes, I hope maybe certain pieces of paper aren't legally binding anymore in 15 years. Maybe
that might be. Here's the thing though. If I am a manager, if I'm an overseer, and I've got, let's call that guy middle management, but he's good, and he has the equivalent of a 17-game winning streak and gets my team, he achieves the goals that I set for the team, which at that time was making the playoffs, right? If I am a manager and I have an issue with him in terms of philosophical differences, I'm going to try to solve those philosophical differences. I'm going to come in or have him come in and say, okay, we've got a problem here that we need to solve. And from what I understand, that meeting was never held. And by the way, not everybody in the Cardinals realm is a Mike Shildt person. There are people that say, yeah, the way he treated people, he deserved it. I don't know what those are, but there are people that say, yeah, his presence was untenable. That being said, at the end of the day, if you have a productive person, you try to fix it. It's just like sending somebody to HR, right? You try to fix the problem
instead of just why throw the baby out with the bathwater kind of thing. And it definitely seems like the baby was thrown out with the bathwater because he seems to be doing pretty well in a long-term role with another organization.
Yeah,
leading a pretty good roster as well.
Yep.
We mentioned this earlier, Derrick Gould's story that just hit. I wanted to.
What do we got?
I'm reading through it, and I wanted to pull a couple of the quick pieces and do yourself a favor, read it, because there's a lot of great context around the series in Colorado and the conversations that are happening. But when the title of it being about them potentially moving non-expiring contracts, this is the graph where it's explained. The Cardinals front office has expressed a reluctance to trade young, controllable talents, but won't slam the door to all conversations that would include John King, Nolan Gorman, or others, according to sources. The Cardinals entered this season preparing to trade pending free agents at the deadline and collect talent for future years. The success in May that buoyed the Cardinals in the standings adjusted the perception of this year and the possibilities, but it didn't appear to jar the Cardinals from their long-term view, despite the front office calling its direction, quote unquote, fluid.
I don't know about you, Matthew, but this might be our whole show tomorrow, that the Cardinals would be willing to trade John King, and they get that out there in public. That's unbelievable.
Just burning the leverage.
What are we doing here? I mean, are we trying to win or not? You don't just tell you're already drawn what, 15,000, 20,000 people. You're going to lose 1 million fans over the course of 3 years, right? You're going from 3.3 million to 2.3 million, from 22 to 25. You want to lose another million? Trade John King.
One other point that I thought was interesting from the very bottom of the story from Derrick Goold, whether the mile-high zero is the lowest point of the season is yet to be mapped. The contours of the summer are starting to bunch into steep outcomes, a cliff of losses right before a potential gorge of trades. Expected contributors are absent with injuries, while other cornerstone players are trying to play through them. The rotation is rocky, and the veteran, high-leverage arms in the bullpen are about to be auctioned off. Comments from club's official have also subtly shifted to being entirely about getting better in the weeks, months, and years ahead, not being better now.
Yeah, that's what I would anticipate.
It's interesting to me, though, that
what's happening.
The shift has been so recent.
Well, they had determined in those 6 games that they aren't a playoff team. And I think many of us had determined that earlier. But it took the 1-5 trip coming out of the break to get them to determine that they aren't a playoff team. Okay, a couple of others. Aside from Jerry Jones, this is from Lex Luthor, who is the most famous owner in sports? Ryan Reynolds?
Oh, wow. I think they would be arguing American American teams.
Okay, Big Four?
Yeah, American Big Four.
Owner because he's an owner? Or she?
Yeah, because Reynolds, you're right, like globally would be one of the most famous sports teams owners because of Welcome to Wrexham. That's a good point. But yeah, if we're thinking just Big Four American teams, James Dolan would be a good one. He's not in the limelight as much as he used to be, but
Jeannie Buss,
but obviously that one's changing. Mark Cuban's no longer an owner, so that's out of the. Ooh, Robert Kraft is what Bubs and Lex Luthor both say.
I think Kraft, yeah.
Lips is 150 says Steve Cohen.
The
Waltons, Kroenke, Steinbrenners are always live.
So I think that's a fun question.
By the way, we bring up
Steinbrenners.
We should be Jay-Z. But while you bring up George Steinbrenner, I was watching Rounders. Have you ever seen Rounders, the Matt Damon movie?
How about Magic Johnson?
Magic Johnson's, yeah, that's the answer. That's a really good point. But the Matt Damon movie Rounders.
Yep.
In the middle of the movie, after he's lost all the money and he's running he's doing the truck for Knish, he walks into a gas station or into a convenience store, and the guy knows that he's in law school. And he just goes, "Hey, so could George Steinbrenner really just pick up and move the Yankees? Could he really do that?" And the St. Louis in me just goes, there's something about like a late 90s movie bringing up, can some jackwagon owner with millions of dollars just move a team on his own? It's hilarious to me. It hit me, and I'm like, the fact that you were writing this and you asked that about Steinbrenner and the Yankees, I wish I would have heard that quote, because I feel like younger me would have been a little bit more worried about Kroenke. If Matt Damon as a Boston guy is making that joke about New York and the Yankees, oh God, maybe I should be more worried about the St. Louis Rams.
Oh man.
We didn't get to talk about that, but
We will.
I don't have the clips loaded for the show right now. But do your reactions to Jerry Jones taking public shots at Dak Prescott for being injured and Micah Parsons for being injured, while getting the amount of weeks they were injured incorrect?
Yeah, he's all about us and everybody else talking about he and the Cowboys. So Dak Prescott's already under contract. He's got his deal. He got hurt legitimately last year, and there's nothing he can do about it. I can't imagine that because he has his money that he's going to be too bothered. And Micah Parsons, I feel bad for the guy, but he knows, because he wants to have clarity about his future. But he knows if he's paying attention, he's going to get paid. He just has to wait until the end of camp so that Jerry can build up all this interest and all this discussion about the Cowboys until the start of the season, and then people will talk more about the Cowboys. But it's not about Micah Parsons or Dak Prescott or the money or the contract. They all know, or they should, that the contract is going to get done. What it's about is Jerry being in front of the cameras and the microphones and people talking about him the rest of that day and the next day.
One of my favorite people talking about football right now is Kevin Clark. Used to do great work at The Ringer. He now works for Omaha Productions, Peyton Manning's company, and ESPN. And he is one of the best NFL people right now. And if you don't watch him, you're doing yourself a disservice if you are a football fan. He was on what is it? What is the morning show on ESPN?
Get Up. First Take.
Sorry. I was looking at the logo FT. I'm like, why can I not think of the name of this damn show? First Take. He was on First Take, and he says, when I look at Jerry Jones, I think of one thing. If the football gods came down and said, Jerry, you get to win the next 3 Super Bowls, but the catch is you can't do a single press conference in that run. He looks at the football gods and says, no deal. That was Kevin Clark. That was Kevin Clark on First Take, and I think he's right.
I think he is too. Hey, just always remember, last time Dallas was in an NFC championship game was 1995. Last time St. Louis was in an NFC championship game was 2001. And St. Louis hasn't had a franchise for a decade. All right? Just remember that. Dallas is,
oh my God.
And as long as Jerry is there, it's not going to happen.
It's a decade this January.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing how time flies?
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. This is our 10th year without
January 2026.
Yep.
I hadn't thought about that until just now. Oh,
Yep.
man, I'm going to go cry.
So we need to get a patch that says 10 years without the NFL. That's it. Great job today, Mr. Rocchio.
That was fun. We didn't trade as many people as I thought we would trade.
No, we didn't. Bernie's going to join us tomorrow. That's always a fun part of the show. And we hope you have a fabulous Friday Eve. R.I.P. Hulkster. We'll miss you. And
John King.
John, he's not dead.
No, they're going to trade him away, though.
I can't believe it. I don't know if I can handle the rest of the day. So I'm going to the game tonight, so I can tell you about Mike Shilt's Padres tomorrow morning. It's going to be fun. For all of us, we thank our friends at the Fenton Bar and Grill. Stop by there for lunch or dinner or happy hour. Have a great time. One of our great partners here at STL Sports Central. And, of course, STL Sports Center Central, presented by DraftKings, where the crown is yours. Until tomorrow, have a, let's see, this is Friday Eve. Fabulous Friday Eve, St. Louis.